Hello beautiful beings, and welcome to a Galactic Movement Astrology report. Oh my gosh, it feels amazing to say that because I've been out of the game for a while. So this is a forecast for the 13 days that follow the 13th of December 2022. And because I've not been on for a while, I just feel to share super briefly what these energies that I bring through are about and what they're anchored from. So I work with the Galactic Movement calendar, also known as the Dreamspell calendar, and this is about a different frequency of time that's more aligned to natural time. So within Galactic Movement Astrology, we're working with, I need to keep my head in the right place because if I don't, woo, sunblind. So within Galactic Movement Astrology, we've got these two cycles of time that are incredibly relevant to the personal human being process. So the first one that we've got is the gestation process. So when sperm meets egg, throughout that process, baby is formed, and then we birth. So from that moment of conception to the moment of birth is usually around 260 days. So that's one of the cycles. And then we also have this 13 moon experience, being on the planet and having this rotational marker of the moon's phases. So we have 13 full moons, for instance, during our 365 and a quarter day cycle around the sun. So both of those time frequencies are natural time frequencies, yet we've been born into a world that uses a distortion of time using things like the Gregorian calendar. You know, it's like it's not a natural rhythm for us, and us aligning with a non-natural rhythm pulls us out of alignment with natural rhythm. So therefore there's like a really big thing around this energy of re-anchoring into natural rhythms and natural experiences of what it is to be a natural human on the planet. And we all know we're kind of coming further and further away from simplicity and natural connection, and it's not really doing us any good. There are certain aspects that are phenomenal, but attuning to natural time for me feels like a way of keeping a really strong cord to the heartbeat of the earth. So within the Galactic Mayan calendar, as all astrology types, we have these archetypes of energy that are governing a certain time, a certain period. You know, when we are in a certain location in the galaxy, there are energies that we recognize the qualities of as archetypes. So these 13-day experiences that we have are the micro cycles. We've got the 13 moons, we've got the 260-day cycle, and then we have 20 of these 13-day cycles, and these 13-day cycles are governed by a primary archetype. So that's what these Wavespell forecasts are about. It's like, here's the archetype that's governing our process for the next 13 days. Here's one of the 20 manifestations of what it is to be a human. So we are moving into the energy of the red moon. Now the red moon is a very significant archetype for humanity to be re-anchoring with at the moment, because the red moon is about the divine feminine. And when I talk of the divine feminine, I'm not talking about men and women, because gender's very fluid. You know, it's not about like this whole idea of men and woman, you know, is generally speaking from conditioned political ideology, as opposed to, you know, organic human nature and action. But there are certain elements of what it means to be in a man's woman and what it means to be in a woman's, did I say in a man's woman? In a man's body and a woman's body. One of those things is that women bleed, generally speaking. So this bleeding cycle aligns with the moon cycle. You know, it's a similar amount of time. And what that, you know, reveals in one sense is the mysterious reality that we exist within. You know, how profound it is that this orbit of this thing in the sky is mirrored by the blood shedding cycle of the female human being. So there's something within this archetype that really supports us to recognize the cycles of time, and this idea of shedding and purification. So we can often purposefully try and shed, but we are constantly all going through a process of purification, and the more that we can align with that potential, the more that we can be okay with and be curious about what's going to stick around and what's going to go, and what's going to go for a while and what's going to come back, the better. Sorry, I know that I keep coming out and it's like blinding sun. It's cool though, like when I bring my head forward, the sun rays are like woo. Anyway, so the red moon also, it's not simply, this feminine energy is not simply about purification. It's also, as I say, this cyclical experience. And we've been really conditioned to exist in a linear idea of time, a linear idea of like we're born and then we die, and everything else is like a straight line toward that point, and we're either kind of going up on the straight line or we're going down on the straight line, but generally we are progressing toward death. But what cyclical experience, and I think people that have got wounds seem to embody this recognition with greater ease because we experience it, is that actually it's less of a linear experience. And if we look at, on a galactic movement level, a solar system movement level, everything is cyclical. Everything, all matter is constantly orbiting. We're constantly going in these orbits. We've got these things from deep space that have an orbit, but they don't necessarily go in a circle in the same way that we might recognize. Their orbit's a little bit more like this. But everything is constantly in this spiral of energy. So when it comes to like what this means for us, what we get to see when we go through these cycles of energy and cycles of experience is not simply, because this is one of the things that, my legs are going dead, one of the things that working with the calendar really reveals is that the themes in our lives that we have chosen to experience as our shadows and our growth edges will always come back up again. It's not that we get to a place where we've cleared the thing and therefore it doesn't appear in our reality anymore. The thing, whatever the thing is, will always be a part of us because our shadow is our gift. So it's always that quality, that lesson, that opportunity is always going to cycle back round. But what happens when things cycle back round is that we get to see where we're at. Are we operating on the shadow side of whatever the thing is, or are we operating from the empowered golden side of it? So for instance, an example that I've used before within things like this was like opportunities for partying used to come for me within a specific archetype, and it wasn't about partying for me. It was like this real sort of self-destruct aspect of self that I had, that is a beautiful part of me that was trying to keep me safe. But what would happen within that, there was a specific archetype where I'd always get an invitation to a party, a messy party, and over time I was able to, at the first hurdle, oh god, I'm now knee deep in ketamine again. The second hurdle, I'm not going to go to the party, I don't want to go. The third phase for me was being able to go and lend someone a bank card, take my bank card back, wipe the shit off it and put it back in my face. So when it comes to this cyclical energy, what I'm trying to highlight here is that the content may remain the same, but how we respond to the content shifts. And this is the beauty of the cyclical reality that we exist within. And when it comes to the energy of Red Moon, we've got this real opportunity to see, cool, what's coming back round, and how does it feel for it to come back round? How good do I feel within myself? And there's also, within the Red Moon energy, because it's a red, it's an awakening, it's a beginning, it's a start. So we really get the opportunity to restart cycles within this 13-day process. What is it that we're restarting? What is it that we're re-anchoring? And it may be that there's certain things that come back in to support us to purify. And, I don't feel that the purification is about the shedding of the situation or the people or the whatever. It's the purification of self. It's the shedding of self. You know, this is something that I've really been journeying the past few years. I was a very I'd like really cut. I was always like an off with the head policy person, and really what I'm recognizing that it was just about running from myself, you know. So when we come into those moments of feeling like we want to cut and run, what is it that we need to give to ourselves in that space? You know, what is it that, or you know, it doesn't have to be about a cutting and running. It's like, you know, these times where we go into the trigger, which is the behaviour that we do again and again and again. The opportunity within these cycles is to clock it and to not react to it and to find out what the need is. You know, and I know that we talk about this a lot within conscious relating, but the primary conscious relationship is with self. So how do we allow ourselves to purify ourselves? And yeah, you know, we can come at that from a masculine perspective of like doing the fast, doing the practice, doing the do in order to create, you know, a window of purification. Or we can take the more feminine, and again, this is not about men and women, this is energetics. We can take the more feminine, receptive approach to that, and I'd say because we're in the red moon, it is the feminine approach to it, but of working with the content that reality gives to us, and then allowing us to go deeper within ourselves into the alchemy transformation point in response to what's coming into our reality. So we really like working with this sort of polarity around reaction and response. And it's the same thing really, isn't it? But I'd say that when we respond, we've journeyed what the reaction's really about and allowed ourselves to take care of ourselves. Because, you know, when it really comes down to it, we're here together. But the primary relationship that needs to be taken care of is the one with ourselves. So within the next 13 days, we're really given an opportunity to recognise things that might be coming back round, notice how that feels. And for me, like, there's certain things that are coming back around within my life at the moment that I'm celebrating having the opportunity to come back around with, and seeing the amount of transformation that's happened to create a very different experience. So we're really witnessing the cycles. We're being given the gift of purification, you know, and it doesn't mean we have to actively do the do. We can do the receptive purification process. And it's really an energy of softening, you know, the whole feminine process. Because this, you know, as humans, we've existed within this like mind-created slavery concept of victim mentality for such a long time that we together have co-created on the planet. That brings then this reactive, protective mechanism, and we're really being asked and invited to soften and soften and soften and soften. And that's not to say we don't have boundaries, and that's not to say that we don't say no. We do all of those things. But the difference is we're not doing the action, we're not reacting because inside there's alarms and everything's going fucking crazy. We're in neutral heart space. No, actually, that doesn't feel right for me. No, actually, or your opinion is super welcome to be your opinion, but that's not how I feel, and it's super cool if we don't see eye to eye on that. And so it's this real like process of being able to, it's about the inside. You know, when we set boundaries from neutrality, it's a very, very different experience, and it's received in a very different way. So yeah, whenever we've got the big trigger, it's about letting go of what we need to do on the outside, coming back onto the inside. What does that part of me need? What is that part of me communicating? and I'm going to stop there because there's somebody walking past with a doggy. So I'm sending you so much love. Oh, it's all right actually, thank you. He walked around the back. Yeah, so we're really being given this, hi doggy, this opportunity to soften into what is, and to soften into ourselves, and from that place of soft, compassionate looking after ourselves, we then come to a different place with each other as well. So yeah, it feels really wonderful to be back. I don't know if you can see, there's a little doggy here. Always the way, isn't it? Aww, lovely little chocolate doggy. Yeah, when we allow ourselves to just soften into what is, it creates a really different experience of getting our needs met, you know, because we're getting our needs met from the inside, and then from that place of softly looking after ourselves, we then come together from a very different energy. So I'm sending you so much love and so much gratitude for tuning back in, and it feels wonderful to be back. There's some more magic that's going to be coming through. Sending you solstice blessings too, because this Wavespell takes us right through the solstice, the darkest point if you're on this side of the world. Big love, beautiful people.